That was totally different than I expected. All right, Haunting of Bly Manor. I actually got a few requests to review Haunting of Bly Manor among my October movie review extravaganza. The people who requested it, did you watch Haunting? Well, probably not. Guess that's why someone would want to review. Yeah, much different. Not really a haunting horror type scenario at all. It's a love story. However, it still does have compelling characters that I got attached to, an interesting setting, and the intrigue that kept me coming back for more. I mean, it's really good, so I want to talk about it. Not gonna wear the Halloween eyes because, like I said, doesn't feel right here. And just so you know, right here, gonna give you a spoiler warning. I'm not gonna go into details. I'm not gonna detail the spoilers. This isn't a spoiler video or anything, but it is a video in which I'm gonna fly a little closer to the sun than I usually would, but I feel like I have to talk about it. So there you go. There's my disclaimer, because this is kind of how it went down. All right, some creepy imagery in the background the first couple episodes, but it's playing the long game. We got 9 episodes. We'll see how it goes. All right, so it's more a psychological thriller than an actual haunting show. I mean, it has spirits in it, but it's concentrating on the psychological element. I see. Oh, it's romance. That is unexpected. I don't even know how I'm going to talk about the show without bringing up some things that people are going to consider spoilers. How am I going to do it? So Haunting of Bly Manor is the new Netflix haunting miniseries. The last one was Haunting of Hill House. Not gonna lie, haven't seen it. I sat down to watch it, but it was during the daytime and my windows are behind me. So I was like, all right, let's watch The Haunting of Hill House with that window glare that looks like this. Yeah, well, okay, maybe I'll come back tonight. Then the ADHD kicked in and I just never got back to it. I think I was slug. I'll watch it in October. All right, so Haunting of Bly Manor. So it starts out, it takes place in the 80s and this American girl is over in the UK. She's running from something. Yeah, probably. Running from what? Elijah Wood from Sin City, of course. So she's gonna be a nanny to this family. By family, I mean a couple of kids and some people who work in the house. And it's actually kind of executed. It starts out, Carla Gugino is telling the story of the Haunting of Bly Manor. You know, think Princess Bride, but with some spirits. First of all, the acting all top notch. Of the regulars in this miniseries, everyone did a great job. Even the kids. You know how it is. Sometimes you gotta give a little for kid acting. You're like, okay, but they'll grow. No, I thought the kids were great. Even retrospectively, you know, at the end, you have all the answers. So you look back and you think, oh, okay, this was what was actually going on in those first episodes. You look back and the kids are even better. And that intrigue is definitely there, but it's in a different tone than you thought it was. It's more complex than this poltergeist that just kind of prowls the hallways at night. It's a story about human connection. It's not just the relationships. When I say relationship, you think romantic relationship. Right, natural. And that is in here, and they're really compelling, great relationships. But it's not just that. One of the most endearing relationships in this entire show are two people who never hooked up. They never hooked up, but you feel the love to their core. But you know the thing I loved about Bly Manor most? I think it's about episode 5. You know, you kind of have to give this show to episode 5. I think it was episode 5. You got to give it a few episodes to get to that episode where it's the most important thread, just going right through, and it brings it all together. It attaches everything. You're like, oh, okay, it's this kind of show. And it's such an interesting and compelling episode, and it sets the stage for the entire show going forward, but also the entire show looking back. Because I realized the show was doing something that I don't think I had experienced, not to this degree, and it's the main reason I really felt compelled to talk about it here. It goes out of its way to show the element of a haunted house through the spirit's perspective. No, I'm not saying everyone in this show is dead. And that's where the psychological thriller element came in. You know, we've seen haunting stories from human beings in the house, and you still see that here. Ran out of breath for a second. Sorry. But at a point, this show is like, hey, ghosts are people too, or were. Point is, they're characters. Let's make the spirits characters. And I really dug that because the execution that they do for that, I hadn't experienced that to this degree. What's it like being a spirit? What's it like being trapped in these mental loops that sometimes you break out of? What's it like just going through motions, not knowing you're doing it? What does this haunting scenario look like from the spirit? Do they see the same thing we see? Maybe not. And I really dug that. That's the hook right there. That's when I was like, oh, amazing. Without that, it would have been an interesting love story, sure. And it was an interesting love story or a family story, which if you look at some of the great haunting movies throughout history, or the haunting stories, they are family stories. So this carries that tradition. I found something else with this that I hadn't found before. And I don't feel bad addressing that here because the show actually tells me to address it. At the very end, it all wraps up. Carla Gugino's telling the story and someone was like, you lied. You said it was a ghost story. it's a love story. And she was like, feel free to make that correction if you ever tell the story. So here I am making that correction. And I've seen marketing kind of like this before, you know, the whole like, oh, it's a horror movie. It's really not though. The two that I think of are M. Night Shyamalan's The Village and Crimson Peak, they were romance stories. They were romance stories that were pitched as horror because someone at the executive level, someone at the studio level was like, so it can be marketed as horror, right? Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Whatever, by the time they're pissed, we already have their money. Whereas some other movies I've seen that had the mismarketing thing going on, you feel like that marketing scheme began after post-production to get people to watch it. With Haunting of Bly Manor, I feel like that was planned before pre-production, just as part of the execution. Some philosophical, you see, love stories and ghost stories, they're the same. They even say as much at the end of this movie. It's basically a big epic troll move, but one that does pay off because the characters were compelling. The characters were interesting, I got attached to them, and the premise itself had a hook that just sucked me in because it's damn compelling stuff when you look at it from that perspective. But still, anyone turning on The Haunting of Bly Manor for some solid Halloween haunting scares because it's called The Haunting of Bly Manor and it came on Netflix in October, anyone coming looking for that might feel bored, disappointed, or maybe a little pissed. It might feel lied to, so just know what you're getting into with this. So all this is a really long roundabout way of saying, hey, give it a few episodes. That's again, another way of saying, give it a few hours. Give it about the length of a trilogy of other movies, and if it doesn't hook you by then, it just seems like a big investment, but that's what happened with me, but by the end, I was glad I stuck it out. The second to the last episode, I was like, this is a complete throwaway episode, I don't care. And then by the end, I was like, nah, that was pretty awesome. All right, so The Haunting of Bly Manor. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever you thought, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.